What about the underlying concussions that he could have had every time? Let's break down what would happen to someone who keeps banging their head into bricks. One thing that's the simplest to think of is skull fractures. What happens in a skull fracture? Well, the skull is one of the thickest bones of our body because it's supposed to protect our brain. But what can happen? Fractures in the skull either need to be surgically repaired or sometimes can be monitored and allowed to heal on their own. The bigger problem associated with skull fractures is damage to the underlying structures, mainly the brain and the blood vessels of the brain. So with skull fractures, one of the biggest fears with head injury is you can have damage to one of those blood vessels. And if those vessels bleed inside the brain, it can cause a stroke. So hemorrhagic stroke, which is a bleeding type of stroke, and enough blood forms, it pushes the brain out of where it's supposed to be and can cause severe brain damage and in really severe cases, even death. Either that piece of bone needs to be removed to evacuate the blood, or depending on what it is, sometimes a little hole can be made called a burr hole. A lot of movies we see in dramatic settings, someone will take a drill and drill a hole into the head. It's not that far from reality. What about the underlying concussions that he could have had every time? What is a concussion? It's basically a bruise to the brain from repeated head trauma. So we'll typically talk about it in people that have been in car accidents or boxers. One very famous person we can think of is Muhammad Ali. Later on in life, he ended up with severe dementia. Whether that was from the head trauma or not, no one knows. But we know from repeated concussive episodes, you can have some residual brain damage. What are some of the other things that can happen with piercing or penetrating trauma, such as gunshot wounds or large metal beams in the case of Phineas Gage, and ended up separating the hemispheres of his brain. So the corpus callosum is part of the brain that connects the left and right hemispheres. His was separated. In doing so, it created a complete separation in his personality. And that's what happens. People's personality are separated, their brain's hemispheres can't communicate, and in essence, now they become a new person, unregulated, uncontrolled behavior and mannerisms.